Welcome to Startup Simplified, Jimmy.
Thank you, Bipin. Lovely to be here.
Likewise, Steve. How are you doing?
Good. And yourself?
I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome.
We have been on the road shooting podcasts for the last 2 weeks. It's just great fun.
Yep.
Great fun catching up with all these entrepreneurs,
Right.
understanding their thought process and more. So let's just straight jump into it, right? You were brought up in Indonesia?
I was born here, but during the 97 financial crisis, which sort of created the 98 riots in Indonesia, my parents and the whole family flew us over to Singapore.
Okay.
So I did my primary school and secondary school over in Singapore, and then I moved to Australia and did a bit for my bachelor degree, and then did a bit of language studies in China for my studies.
Okay. And then you moved back to Indonesia?
Yeah.
When was that?
That was about 2015.
How was that? Yeah? I mean, how was that whole coming back home journey for you emotionally?
I mean, when you first moved back and when you were in Singapore and Australia and China, it's more developed than Jakarta. What it was in 2014 was that takes a bit of sort of like getting used to.
Sure.
But you know, being back in your hometown, being able to eat the food, your family, it's always good to be here.
I'm sure. No, we are glad. We are glad you came back. Now that we are able to have this conversation. Okay. So what did you study?
I did banking and finance.
Okay.
Yep, and that's what I did in my bachelor. And then after that, I did a bit of Chinese. Learned a bit of Chinese.
The language?
Yes, the language.
Okay. So you speak Mandarin, Cantonese?
Mandarin.
Okay. Are you fluent?
I'm okay. Not good enough for professional setting.
Okay.
Yep, but overall, I am able to speak 5 languages now.
Which ones are those?
So Bahasa, English, Mandarin,
Okay.
Melayu, which is very similar to
Bahasa. Yeah.
and then it's a dialect. It's called Chaozhou or Teochew. So that's where my parents are, where my grandparents are from. It's in a smaller town in China back then. Of course, it's becomes a bigger town now. It's called Shantou in Guangdong.
Okay, great. So you lived in a lot of different cities across Asia and Australia, right?
Yep.
Pick one, the most favorite.
I think it has to be Singapore, right?
Has to be Singapore.
Beijing was good fun as well.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we as Asians, if you're hungry at 10 or 11 o'clock in the evening, it's so easy to get food, right?
Correct.
But if you're over in Australia, you can't do that.
Yeah, true.
That's one thing that you miss. And while I was in Australia, at least, so the people, the food, and actually the opportunity as well that presents itself. So Australia is a lot slower. I mean, there's some great startups over there, such as Canva, but where all of the action are happening, it's right here.
True. I mean, the hustlers are out here.
Yep.
The innovators are right out here.
Yep.
I mean, especially Indonesia. I mean, the energy is so infectious amongst the founders and the aspirations, which is pretty amazing. So, what did you want to become growing up? I mean, did you had any profession in mind? And I'm not talking about like you being 6'7".
Yep.
When people want to become an astronaut,
Right.
or join the army or whatever. Like during your college.
Yep.
What were your aspirations?
So, my parents, they had always been an entrepreneur for their life. And that had a lot of impact, not just for me, but for my brothers as well. So I have 3 other brothers. So 2 of them have actually started their own companies as well. And always wanted to be an entrepreneur right from the beginning. And let me take a bit of time here. So tell you about my parents and my family.
Sure.
They were born in Jambi. It's a smaller city over in Sumatra. So back then, during the first president's rule over in Indonesia, Sukarno, he actually allowed a lot of Chinese schools. But when the second president came into power, that's Suharto, the new order came in and he suppressed a lot of this Chinese culture, Chinese languages, so on and so forth. So at that point of time, around 1965, I believe, the Chinese schools were closed. My parents, they were forced that they couldn't continue their studies anymore. At that point of time, I believe my father was in year 9 And then my mom was in probably in year 4 or year 5. So if you were to speak my mom now, she speaks pretty decent Bahasa, but she couldn't spell. She could still spell Bahasa properly.
Yeah, I mean, if she's already in grade 4, grade 5, it gets a bit tricky.
Yep. But I mean, they've done pretty well for themselves, right? And they were able to send us, the 4 kids, to Singapore, Australia, and my 2 other younger brothers to United States to study. They took a lot of great risks. They took a lot of, despite the fact that they didn't have any studies at all. I mean, who's going to hire them?
True.
No one's going to hire them.
True.
So they didn't have a choice. And it was by necessity that they had to be an entrepreneur. They did a lot of different kind of entrepreneurship, a lot of different types of businesses. But some of the key values that they put in was a lot of hard work. And at one point of time, they actually opened up this motorcycle servicing. It's a workshop, right? And it was in east of Jakarta. It's besides a prison, Cipinang prison. So by the side of the road. And my dad, he opened up his shop for 361 days a year.
Wow.
So the only time that he took days off was the Chinese New Year, the Idul Fitri, 2 days.
Yeah.
The rest, he actually opens it up. And there was a time when I actually saw my dad. There was this loyal customer that comes in, speaks to him and say, "Hey, you look really pale. Your face is all white. What happened?" My dad said, "I'm having a fever." So he came to my dad and just felt his forehead and said, "Yeah, you do have a fever." And asked my dad, "Hey, why are you still open?" "I have to, because this is the way for me to be successful and provide for my family." So I've been under that kind of under that kind of sort of like values, for almost my whole life.
Sure. I mean, I feel, this generation which you're talking about, your parents' generation, I think it was a completely different breed altogether.
Yeah.
I mean, living in a free country, growing up in a free country which is like extremely new. I mean, it's been oppressed and deprived of a lot of things for a very long time. And then being a minority as well, it gets a bit tricky. And I completely understand. I mean, a similar story for me. I come from a very lower middle class background back in Mumbai in India. So I completely hear you. It's a very different mindset which these parents instill in their kids.
Yeah.
They don't teach you hustle, but because they are hustling, you just learn.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it just comes to you.
Yeah.
This is great. And I mean, I've met you twice, and I can feel that. I can feel that hustle, that energy in you. I believe it has a lot to do with your parents.
Yeah. No, thank you. Just like you, right? Just like you.
Thank you. Okay, so how did your first brush with entrepreneurship happen?
Yeah, so I, of course, as any, parents who have their own businesses, they want their kids to sort of like
Continue their business.
Yeah. So I was helping my dad in and out, and there was this, one of his ventures was actually to look for gold mines.
Gold mines.
Okay. In the middle of Borneo, Kalimantan.
Okay.
So we had to fly all the way to Pontianak. It's in West Kalimantan. So what you do is that you take about 5 hour driving in a paved road, and by the side of the road, there's a small muddy road that goes all the way into the village for 2 hours. If it rains, there's basically no access to that.
Okay.
There's no electricity, and that place basically stands still in the test of time. So no electricity, and the science whereby it's, like 20th or 21st century. There's one TV owned by the chief of the village. There's one phone, and then there's a bit of light bulb, and a chainsaw and motorcycle.
Which year is this?
It was in just about when I got back, 2014, 2015.
15. No mobile networks.
No mobile networks at all. Oh, the chief has a mobile network, but he doesn't use it often.
Sure. Okay. So you're like completely cut off from the world.
It was almost completely cut off in the world. And when I was actually watching the kids playing, they had this a small toy that looks like a train. They had the wheels as well, and they have to push it through with a stick. So I asked the chief of the village, hey, when your grandfather was playing, did he actually use the same toy? Yes, exactly the same toy. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, the time really stands still out there.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
And if you are in the middle of the night, if you're in the house, if you to put your face, to put your hand right in front of your face, you literally can't see it. You can't see
That dark.
that dark. It wasn't designed to allow for moonlight to come in, so it was just all wooden planks.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that must be some experience.
That was actually it was good fun, and what we did was that we went into this gold mine, and they live through agriculture, and they realized that they had a lot of gold. So if you look for gold, and there are two types of gold, right? There's number one, it's called primary, and the second one, it's called alluvial. So all type of gold is actually produced in a rock form. And then through erosion by wind and water, and then it goes down to the river, and then water does its magic, and you see a lot of this finer sand dust.
Sure.
So what you do is that you get, some of those, either in the river or river that has dried up, you get that into a pan, and then you just move that in a circular format, and then because the gold it's denser than the other materials, it will settle
down.
Yes.
Nice. Good. So did you pursue this? How long did you pursue this?
It was no, it wasn't too long actually. So how my dad actually wanted to look for investors, mostly from China, to open up the mines, and what he did was that he took care of the local operations, local legalities. But there was an offer that came in to purchase the mine, and basically we sold the mine away.
Nice. So when did you conceptualize Baca?
It was not long after that.
Okay.
Not long after that.
Let's talk about this journey.
Yep.
Right. I mean, we are at Ketitik. We are ourselves a short form media app, right? Primarily news. Now, I'm very curious. What was the landscape like in 2015 for news aggregation?
Right. So I actually go into the startup scene, stumbled onto it, right? My parents were very traditional in their own sense, traditional businesses. And when I did my studies over in Beijing, so I met with a few Chinese folks. One of them was actually a product architect in Baidu, which is the Google of China, right?
Yes.
And he said that, hey, look, Qingre Toutiao, which was the original app that the parent company of TikTok, ByteDance, had a huge success, and he said he wanted to do it over in Indonesia. So I looked into it, did a bit of studies, and then there were a few things that were important: users acquisition, media partnerships to have the content, and then the technology was critical as well. I said, let's do it. So that's how I got into it.
So it's like super accidental.
Yeah, quite accidental, super accidental. You can say that.
Okay. Talk us about the journey, of building Baca in Indonesia.
Right.
Some milestones that you achieved.
Yeah, so it was overall a seed venture-backed company. We had almost 100 million downloads worldwide. Wow. We had presence in Indonesia, Middle East, North Africa. We had a few different languages for those countries.
Sure.
And then we also were present in Brazil. So the idea was to go into countries whereby there was a growing internet penetration. GDP per capita was growing as well. And news and content was something that's quite universally consumed, and that's what we did.
Why not India?
The competition was tough. A lot of Chinese players were there as well.
Yeah.
And the Indian tech guys were very strong as well.
Sure. Okay. So you ran Baca for almost 5 years?
Yes, almost 5 years.
And what happened?
So there was actually a sort of like a roof or a ceiling that we couldn't sort of like push through. So we had millions of DAOs. Our session times was, at that point of time, I believe it was half an hour.
Okay.
But the ceiling was actually in terms of monetization.
Okay.
Where you see a lot of this content got a lot of revenues in China or over in United States. The digital advertising market was probably 70, 80, 90 times bigger
Correct.
over in China than it is in Indonesia.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I mean, you never explored markets like, let's say, Singapore, Malaysia, which are slightly higher in terms of giving you that kind of ad revenue?
We looked into it, but we did not execute for a few following reasons. Given the fact that there was a high CAC, there was the RPMs were high, but the CAC was high as well.
Sure.
And it made more sense, right, in terms of growth to actually go into these promising markets such as Indonesia and Brazil.
Correct. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong over here. Like, I personally feel that, especially that era of 2015 until 2021, was basically growth at any cost, right? I mean, that you keep growing, we'll figure out the monetization later. What has happened during this period with a lot of companies is that they went very wide in acquisition. So even for something like news, I personally feel that there is a right target audience,
Right.
which will appreciate the content which you're creating. But if you create for everyone, and if you distribute everyone, and you acquire everyone, then it's gonna be a big mismatch. Gradually to monetize. Is that correct?
I think so. I mean, even if you're creating for everyone, you have to fight against Facebook, Instagram, now TikTok, right? People are consuming on TikTok. And even the medias, the large medias in Indonesia, they are frenemies as well with these platforms. So it was definitely really tough for us to compete that against. And so this is a hypothesis that we have. And super apps have worked really well over in Indonesia. You see players like Gojek, Traveloka, so on and so forth. And it shows that people like to use one app for a lot of things. Yeah. And so my current co-founder and I, we had this discussion. Why do actually people do that? This kind of behavior is not that common, probably in Singapore or in more developed countries. And the level of trust generally, or adherence to rule of law, Indonesia compared to Singapore or United States, it's definitely lower, right? So the level of trust that people have towards institutions, to someone that they don't really know that well, it's lower. So once they understand and becomes more comfortable and trust one single app, they would actually do a lot of things into one single app.
Sure.
So what that means is that if you are a new app coming in with only one or two functions, there's actually an uphill battle that you have to go through so that people trust you. True.
So I mean, if in hindsight, if you look back, what would be a few things which you would do differently with Baca?
Right. I think that's a good question. I reckon after learning from you and some of the guys over in InShots, targeting towards the top 5% would definitely make more sense.
We are doing that.
Yeah, they do have the money. It's a lot easier to monetize for people who have money. And I think being fast, we were fast. We experimented a lot of different types of things already. I reckon that we needed to have more localization. Our tech team back then was over in China. Yes.
Does having raised a lot of money also creates problems?
I think it does, right? Because naturally the investors and yourself, you operate under the idea that you have to grow at all costs and really fast. Every time you meet with the investors, they ask you, how's your growth? So that puts a lot of sort of like pressure and subconscious thinking as well. You just have got to grow at all costs.
Okay, I mean, this might be a slightly tricky question, so you can choose not to answer. Do you think that after a point, once you've raised large amount of capitals, you actually work in investor first mindset rather than customer first mindset?
Well, I think in certain occasions, we, especially after, like talking to the investors after those meetings,
Yeah.
because of, we understand their positions as well. They want us to keep growing. I think we do fall into that sort of like idea sometimes, and we have to learn and move. So what we do with my current startup, with my current co-founder, we always remind each and ourselves, we tell our team to always speak off with our users and to be not very far away from where our customers are. So just about last week, spoke with 3 of our users, and you always learn new things after talking to our users.
True. Okay, so let's wrap up the Baca chapter. So where at what point did you leave Baca? What happened?
Yep. So of course I told my co-founders, hey, I wanted to do something else by myself, and I wanted to try something that was sort of like more local. And of course Baca couldn't do that because they had their business model that they didn't do it, that they had to follow. So yeah, that's how I felt.
Parted ways with them.
Yep.
Okay. Now let's come to the exciting part.
Sure.
Let's come to today.
Yep.
So what are you doing with Kitalulus? What exactly is this?
Kitalulus is the #1 job platform in Indonesia. So we are present in more than 250 cities and regencies, kabupatens in Indonesia. We are also the safest job platform because one of the issues for a lot of Indonesians, the pain points is that it's just not that safe, or they can get scammed when applying for jobs. I'm sure that's what happens over in India as well.
Well, I mean, the job scams are pretty massive.
You're right. So we create the safest job, and at this point of time where we stand, there are almost 200,000 of jobs that comes in the first half of 2023, and only 2 that have been
Flagged as
scam.
Wow, that's nice. Well, okay, I'll hold you on to this one. When you say #1, who's by which metrics?
I think there are a lot of metrics that you could look at, right?
No, because there are a lot of #1s,
Right. Everyone will claim that they're #1. So if you were to look on Google Play or the iOS App Store, under the business category, Kitalulus is the #1 ranked job platform in Indonesia.
Nice. But isn't it a very competitive space? The job category?
It is. There are a lot of competitors there, and we have high respects for them. We've been in the market. We've been #1 at least on Google Play and on iOS for the past, I believe, 12 months.
But if it is this competitive, oh, by the way, congratulations on that. But if the space is this competitive,
right?
Why did you start?
So we sort of like almost stumbled into that as well.
Okay.
You had to pivot a lot of times.
Yeah.
So just to give you a bit of context, the name Kitalulus means that we graduate. Kita is we.
Okay.
Lulus is graduate.
Okay.
Started off as a platform to help people prepare for civil servant test exams.
Oh, that's super niche.
Yeah, super niche.
Yeah.
Super niche.
Okay.
And but civil servants, they are very highly sought after. So there's a saying, right? If you are a civil servant, you go up the pecking order for the most favorite son-in-law potential.
Oh boy, this sounds so much like India.
Right. So the future is guaranteed. But at the same time, what you understand as well, why people think that way, there's not too much opportunities in the smaller cities, right?
Sure.
So you graduate with a bachelor degree, you work with the top banks, with the multinational companies, with state-owned enterprises, and there's no other spaces for you. So people want to be civil servants.
Okay.
And we were born in the height of the pandemic. So we did pretty well. Our pass rate was twice the market passing rate. But we realized because of the highly competitive space of civil servant test exams, only 3 out of 100 actually pass. And despite the fact that we help people to pass that exams, there were a lot more that needed jobs and that failed and needed jobs. So we look into the idea that, hey, let's open this up for job platform.
Okay. Interesting. So that was your first pivot.
Yes.
How long did you run this civil services coaching kind of a...
About a year.
About a year. And you had already raised funding
at that point of time, one time.
You raised. Angels.
Yes. So our seat actually.
Your seed.
Our seat plus our friends as angels.
Okay, nice. And then you pivot into this side when it's purely in the job marketplace of sorts. So in my previous conversation with you as well, you focus a lot about the safety aspect of things, right? When it comes to a job posting, is the job legit?
Yes.
Is the company real or not? Just run me through very quickly on what are the mechanisms you have put in place to ensure that it is not a scam.
We do have this machine learning that we tend to be able to find different data points to point out that they are scams. I mean, it's the scammers, they are pretty good at doing their job. And they always
give me an example. I love hearing scam stories.
They always come up with different new ways to actually scam people.
Give me one good one, right?
So it's not exactly a scam, right? This one's borderline between scams and not scams. So this is basically an agency that's trying to help out different banks to acquire new users.
Okay.
And so what he did, he pretends to be an HR.
Okay.
And says that, hey, all of you guys are invited to the interview. But before joining the interview, you have to open up a bank account first.
Wow, nice.
And he actually used his tracking of referral code and then pass it on to this, these people who apply for these interviews. And at the end of the day, they don't get called up for interviews.
Wow.
So that's one of the latest ones that we have. And the other ones, they are, quite general, such as, for instance, hey, come in, we want to hire you for, we want to hire you for a certain role. So you would actually, these offices would actually be in a place that's quite in the back. And they would have these two, like people who are
goons.
Yeah, exactly.
And they'll extort money.
No, they don't extort money there.
Okay.
So they are there to intimidate.
Okay.
And basically, hey, come up, go up. That's where the interview is waiting for you.
Okay.
And they after a few questions, and the interview would go, hey, you passed the interview. But before you proceed, you have to pay 300,000 rupiah, 500,000 rupiah for different reasons. For administrative purposes, for trainings, for certificates, for uniforms. And some of them actually do end up paying. Oh boy.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it's pretty sad, to be honest. I mean, especially for someone who's looking for a job and ends up paying himself. It's pretty sad.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So what else are you doing? Like, for example, at Kitalulus itself, I mean, one is a safety part of things.
Yep.
How else do you differentiate? I won't name your competitors,
right?
But how else do you differentiate with probably tens of them out there, right? LinkedIn being one out there. How do you differentiate yourself?
I think that's actually a good question. Maybe if it's okay, I share a little bit about the context on how we differentiate ourselves.
Please.
No, as a second-time founder currently, I developed a deeper appreciation towards insights.
Okay.
So back then, when you know that something is to be something as of to be inside, you would probably, in terms of effort, put in, say, 50 units of effort into that. But once you've appreciated how certain insights, when you put in 10x of the effort that you've put in, your company can grow into such a scale that the users love you. So that's what I've grown to appreciate. And what we did is that we try to understand our users as much as possible. So one of the differentiating factors is that we have a fantastic customer success team.
Okay.
And most of our users, imagine putting yourself or ourselves in their point of shoes. They graduated either with a high school education or a college degree. And they were quite comfortable in their high school or their college. And they had to go through this creating CV, going for interviews, and they don't know how to do that. So after applying for 10, 20, 30, 40 jobs, a lot of them, they don't actually get called up.
Sure.
And many of them would be disheartened, demotivated. And what our customer success do is that they help them to cheer them up as well. And to a certain point, one of our key values over in Kitalulus is being customer focused. So our customer success team did just that. She would ask the user, "Hey, can I actually review your CV?" And she pointed out what was wrong with the CVs and gave suggestions on how to improve the CVs.
Sure. But you can't do this at scale, right?
We can't. We do help some of them. We do have about 6-7 people in the customer success. There are hundreds of people that actually ask.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. What do you see as the biggest challenge, especially in the job markets right now?
I think at the end of the day, when you look at job marketplace, it is a marketplace, right?
Yes.
So the fundamental of any marketplace are two things. Number one, supply. Second one is demand. So in terms of our marketplace, making sure that there's actually demand for talents is very crucial.
Correct.
So having these companies to come in, currently we work with 100,000 registered companies over in Kitalulus, posting 40,000 jobs in Kitalulus on a monthly basis.
Sure.
So by having that demand, the supply of talents would actually come in. So that's the fundamental of it.
Do you specialize in a specific sector, or it's sector agnostic?
We are quite sector agnostic. 70% of our jobs currently are white collar
jobs.
Yep.
Interesting. And how about your monetization model, if you are open to...
Sure, of course. I think one of the monetization model is basically job postings. We do have a subscription method whereby they can subscribe for a whole year for a certain amount of money that they can pay. Okay. So we do have different packages.
Sure.
And these different packages allows them for different quotas on how much active job postings that they can have.
Sure. Okay, one of my favorite questions across all these podcasts which I've been doing is, have you integrated AI?
We are actually in the process of integrating AI.
I was so hoping you would say no. You would have been the first one to say no. Okay, let's talk about that.
But especially if it goes public, you have to say yes.
AI, we are talking AI.
Yeah. No, but seriously, we are integrating that. I think there's so many use cases, right, for AI. In terms of the demand side, funnily enough, a lot of people say that they are HR managers or HR associate. They can't create a simple job descriptions.
True.
So as simple as creating a job description.
Yeah.
That's one. And then number two, for a lot of these job seekers, AI can be extremely helpful when it comes to creating reviews, CV reviews.
CV reviews as well, right?
Right.
Correct. So you're already in the process of integrating AI out there.
Yep. And it adds a lot of value.
Sure.
Adds a lot of value, yeah.
Sure. Let's talk a bit about the fundraising, right? I mean, we all know that it is not the best time to raise funds. Things have gone a bit south when it comes to the venture capital money. You raised your last round last year?
Yes, last year.
Good timing. Okay.
Just before the winter happens.
How have you seen the whole attitude change from the VCs, your partners, for example, in terms of the mindset shift which they are talking about, right? Can you just expand a bit?
Course. There's a lot of pressure. Back in 2015, 2016, 2017, you are seed or you are Series A. There's no pressure for you to generate revenue, or maybe to show some potential of revenue.
Right?
But there's no sort of like pressure for you to achieve positive cash flow. But at this point of time, as early as Series A, you need to prepare that mindset on how you should run more experiments, on where you think you can actually solve the most pain points, whether it's from our users or job seekers or our employees. And give them a lot of values, and therefore at the same time extract some money or revenues for us as well. So the pressure is there to generate revenue.
Anything else apart from revenue which comes in? I mean, so there was a time, and this is again all hearsay.
Right.
This is what I've heard from a lot of founders, wherein there was a time where the likes of large venture capitals, I won't name, would tell founders that listen, just grow. You're not burning fast enough. Don't worry. We will wire you for the next round.
Yep.
Has that comfort gone completely now, or it's still there?
I think it's almost gone completely, unless you are able to show positive sides of monetization.
So how does this impact you as a founder? Because the way I see, the way we are building our company, right? So we started building during
Right.
funding winter,
Yep.
right? So we've been very stingy,
Right.
with the way we spend money,
Right.
because most of it is our own money,
Yep.
right?
Of course.
And friends and family. So being very stingy, and we keep looking for that ROI on every dollar which we are spending. Right. But let's say for someone who started in 2021, wherein the focus was completely at growth at any cost, suddenly you have to make a flip. How do you make that cultural flip within the organization? Because it needs a lot of change from your employees as well.
Right. I don't think there's that big of a change. We've always been really frugal.
Sure.
And both my partner and I, we've been really frugal. We don't fly business class at all, for instance, for business trips. And we don't stay in 4 or 5-star hotels at all for business trips.
Sure.
So it was quite easy for us. And the main change that we had to do was actually positive. What we did was that we sort of like didn't have to hire for any unnecessary roles.
Correct.
But at the same time, we asked our team to deliver more quality, to produce more output. And we raised the standard and we raised the bar up. So overall, what we did in the company, we ran through this exercise, right? So my co-founder and myself, we had this agreement that we had to set the quality bar higher, not just for them, but for ourselves as well.
Sure.
Because we have to do it by you have to do it by example.
Nice, very nice. Let's talk about the other very important element in an entrepreneurial journey is your co-founder.
Yep.
Right. So let's talk about your co-founder first, and then we can get into more details.
Sounds good.
So who's your current co-founder?
His name is Wei Chuan, fantastic guy.
Okay.
So just as a style story, our VP of engineering, his name is Mas Amrin, Indonesian. He used to be a CEO of a company before called Lactico.
Okay.
And he told me that, hey, finding a good co-founder is more difficult than finding a good wife. Do you agree with that?
I mean, look, it's my first time, and I am doing it with bunch of my best friends.
Right.
So in my case, it was comparatively easier.
All right.
But maybe I can give you this answer a few years later. I'll have a better clarity.
I'll put that in my calendar to remind.
Oh, sure. But I think he's right. He's right, because look, it's pretty much like marriage.
Yep.
I mean, you see each other every day. You know each other's strengths, weaknesses. You get irritated at weaknesses very quickly.
Yep.
You manage large amount of money and responsibility together, right? In a marriage, you got a kid.
Yep.
In a startup, you got employees.
Yep.
Right, and it's a shared responsibility.
Right,
So I'm pretty sure it can be a very nasty relationship, and it can be a very fulfilling relationship.
Yep.
It can move on either side. I don't believe it can be like okay relationship. I don't think there can't be a middle one. It can be either good or bad. At least with co-founders. That's what I believe. Again, I'm very young in my entrepreneurial journey, but my thoughts are that.
I think that makes sense. It's almost like your preference whether you like to eat durian or not.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really lucky. My previous company, Baca, I had an amazing co-founder.
Sure.
The CEO of the company, and the current my co-founder, the CEO of the company as well. It's been really solid. So solid background, really smart, hardworking. Actually, had a lot of sort of like sacrifice for the company, right?
Sure.
And we always speak that there's actually a good saying by Ray Dalio.
Mm-hmm.
You can have anything in life, but you can't have everything.
True.
Right? So there's always a cost.
Yeah.
Whether you want to build a successful business,
Mm-hmm.
whether you like it or not, you're going to fall sick. You're going to spend less time with your family.
Correct.
You have to forego some of the good times with your friends. You're gonna forego some of your health, that happens to the both of us. But that's the price that we have to pay.
Sure. He's based in Indonesia.
He is actually currently based in KL.
Okay.
That's where his family is.
Sure.
So he would spend 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, he would spend 2 weeks over in Jakarta and 1 week working from home over in
KL.
KL. Yeah.
Nice. Where's your office over here?
We are close to Pacific Place.
Ah, nice. Fancy.
No, not fancy actually. So we got a really good deal by a co-working space.
Sure.
And we love it there. And
How big is the team now?
250.
Wow.
50, yeah.
How many folks were at Baca when you moved?
Oh, the engineering team was about 80 people.
80 people.
And product. Engineering
Wow.
and product.
That's massive.
Yeah, that's massive. There were a lot of codes that they had to write.
I'm sure 80 people.
Yes.
We are managing with 6. But need more.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
agree. 80 people. Okay. So it's a 250 people team already. That's a massive team.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice. Let's talk more about you as an entrepreneur, right? Were there any changes which you proactively made in your personality when you moved towards tech entrepreneurship, or you feel you've been the same?
I feel I've been the same.
So you've always been very outspoken, very extrovert.
Yeah, for most of my life, yes.
Nice. I mean, I think I see more introvert founders than extrovert founders.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
I mean, at least in my observance,
Yep.
the folks, most of them, either they are introvert or they are guarded.
Right.
That, okay, I don't want to say anything which is not diplomatic.
Yep.
I think it comes with the responsibility, I believe.
Of course.
So no major changes as such, you feel?
No major changes. But of course, you have to up your game. You have to lead by example all day.
Sure.
Yep.
So what if for aspiring entrepreneurs, for folks who want to start businesses, what would be the few tips which you want to share?
Sure. I think first and foremost, the most important is that product market fit.
Sure.
You have to really know your customers. Can't stress this enough. And once you find the golden nuggets of insights, put in 200 units of efforts into one specific insights, and you're gonna go big. Just like what we did with the safety part of it, right?
Sure.
And I believe a lot of people know. I'm sure any layperson here would know as well that there are a lot of job scams out there.
Absolutely.
But how many people would actually put in 500 units of effort into ensuring that the platform is the safest platform over in Indonesia, right? And then with regards to marketing as well, how Indonesians are very reliant on social media.
True.
A lot of people know that, but are you going to put in the 500 units of effort into making that social media works? So as a context, if you were to sort of like type the hashtag of Kitalulus, over in TikTok, we have almost 100 million views now.
Wow. Nice. Okay, so product market fit. Next would be?
I think important for you to treat your people really well.
Okay.
People don't like to be micromanaged. They like to be handhold. So just like you, we started in 2021 with our own money as well.
Yeah.
So we hired an army of interns.
Sure.
You know what was really fortunate for us at that point of time when COVID hits, a lot of businesses don't actually expand and open up and that means that there were a lot of new fresh grads from the top universities in Indonesia that have difficulty finding a job.
Sure.
And we got them and they work under us and they blossom under us. One of my proudest moments as an entrepreneur, it's not the $50 million that we've raised previously, but on the realization that the interns, after 6 to 12 months working with us, they got better than me in a certain domain. Wow.
No, I completely agree. So, I mean, even for us, like our 70% of our team at Ketitik are fresh grads, like fresh out of college, no experience whatsoever. And I was warned by folks that, hey, listen, they won't stick, they'll move quickly, there'll be a massive learning cost and everything. We've had hardly 2% attrition in last 1.5 years. And we have all women's team in our content. Not by design, it just happened.
Yep.
And they're absolutely fantastic, extremely hardworking. We are completely remote, right? So they enjoy that part that they're working out of their houses, some in Lombok, Bandung,
Right.
wherever, right? And now they speak journalism. So, I mean, we can really see the difference between when we hired them and now. They speak the language, they speak journalism as a language.
Right.
They speak about ethics in terms of what story to be covered. Right. I mean, there have been times wherein I have shared one story with them that, hey, listen, can we summarize this and put it?
Right.
And she's like, no. I'm like, why? This does not go with our ethical standards for Ketitik. We'll not put it.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, this is the right hire.
Right.
This is the right hire. I mean, someone who has the guts to speak up.
Yep.
That boss, we're not going to do this.
Yep.
That's perfect.
Yep.
Right. I mean, that's the kind of people you want to work with.
Yep. And they enjoy doing that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So number 2 was people. Number 3?
I think a lot of experimentations. So we do it subconsciously by now. So we always test and measure. So how many people actually fall on that landing page and how many convert, and try to tweak a few things, right? And see what works. And then you have a new product, create a deck, and then test it with your customers. Even if your product isn't launched yet, and just say that, okay, we're going to give you like 30% discount for being an early bird.
Yeah. Try it out.
Yeah. Even the fact that you don't have a product yet, and that way you're able, once you see that product, and if people buy that product based on your pitch, you're able to tell whether or not you are actually solving for their pain points or you're just a vitamin.
True. No, absolutely. I think these 3 are very, very, very good points. Very good points for those. Okay, let's do a quick segment which we have.
Yep.
Where I am the one with money.
Okay. You look like the one with money.
I don't, guys. And you got a pitch to me.
Sure.
And you got like 1 minute.
Sure.
Right? You're going to pitch to me, why should I invest in Kitalulus? And your time starts now.
All right. So, Bipin, Kitalulus is the number 1 job platform in Indonesia. We're present in more than 250 cities and regencies over in Indonesia. And we process more than 3.5 million of job applications every month. And at the same time, we're also the safest. And we continue to have more and more employees in our platform. So we see how our talents will become talents not just for Indonesia, but for a lot of different countries such as Southeast Asia as well. Would you like to join in our journey?
Do you allow cicilan?
We cicilan to
investment?
Oh.
No, but good pitch. I know. I think this is a pivotal moment in our economic history, at least in the last 2-3 decades, because I think the job markets, the capital markets are going to change in the next couple of years, which will mean that you would need strong, reliable platforms to acquire right set of talents.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure that you're absolutely in the right direction.
Right
there.
Thank you.
Okay. One last question before I let you go. Are you married?
Yes.
Okay. How important is having an understanding partner someone who understands startups and the ecosystem, how important is that for a founder?
I think we can't force them to understand, right?
Sure.
And having a supportive, I think it's not all day that they understand what you do. I think what's most important, I think having the supportive partner is the most important. And of course, at the same time, you don't expect yourself to be supported all the time.
Correct.
They have their own needs.
Correct.
So you have to support them.
Correct.
So
Entrepreneurs can be very selfish at times, right? I mean, by selfish, I mean they're constantly thinking about their venture, how to grow, while ignoring the other peripherals of their life.
right.
So yeah, I mean, I agree with your point.
No, it's really not easy, right? If you're a woman or man married to an entrepreneur or startup founder, so for me, for example, I do this sometimes. I think about how to expand the business, how to make some operations more effective, efficient, so on and so forth. Sometimes they would talk to me, and your mind sometimes go away.
Correct. Yeah, but it does happen. It does happen. What does she do?
She's helping out her mom.
Okay.
Yep, her mom runs an sort of like an investment, financial savings company.
Sure. Are you got kids?
On the way.
On the way. Oh wow.
She's 6 months pregnant.
Oh, amazing. It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be beautiful. I have a 9-year-old. Every time I'm like, especially in my entrepreneurial journey, every time I meet him, I'm like full of energy, full of motivation.
Right.
I'm like, okay, this is gonna push me for another 1 week.
Right.
So it's good.
Right.
And all right, Chief.
Yeah. Okay.
Please.
No, I think one last thing. I think having a family or being married yourself, it actually pushes you to do better, right?
Yes, it does. Again, I mean, it is very important that you have the right partner. But yes, if you have the right partner, I personally feel if you are able to be really good friends with your partner, be it your husband, wife, if you're able to be a really good friend, it just translates into a great relationship, which actually motivates and helps you to push further, hustle further,
Right.
and grow your own venture.
Agree.
Right. No, I completely agree. Chief. All right, Jimmy, thank you so much. It was great catching up.
Yep.
You really opened up to us. Thank you so much.
Yep. Oh, thank you.
And do share about this experience
Okay.
later on social media.
Right.
All right.
Definitely do.
Thank you.
Bipin.